Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. As always, if you enjoy this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by semi-TNUP. Kids ask for chocolate over ice cream, mom complies. This happened earlier today at the grocery store. A mom was in line in front of me with her two young daughters. Neither could have been older than 8, buying a random assortment of items, including roughly a gallon of Neapolitan ice cream. Suddenly, one of the girls looks over at a display of candy bars and her eyes light up. Mommy, I want a chocolate bar. She points to the display. Mom looks over and shakes her head. No, honey, we're already getting ice cream. You don't need a chocolate bar. The girl grabs one of the bars. But I want this so much more than I want ice cream. She waves the bar in front of her mom's face. She, the daughter, also pushes one into her sister's hands to get her on board. With both of her daughters now waving candy bars in front of her, she suddenly gets the look. So you want candy bars instead of ice cream, is that it? The daughters are nodding and emphatically saying, yes, we want the candy bars, not the ice cream. So the mom turns to the cashier and says, can you remove the ice cream? They don't want it. Cashier dutifully clears the ice cream from the order and puts the tub next to the register. She tells the mom her total and is handed the money. The mom starts bagging up her groceries while the kids tear open their candy bars and start devouring their treat. Right as the mom finishes putting the bagged groceries in her cart for the trip out to the car, the kids finish their candy bars, look at the empty wrappers, and then at the tub of ice cream sitting next to the register. Realization dawns in their eyes. Hey mom, could we still get the ice cream after all? Mom has a smirk on her face. You said you didn't want the ice cream. You got the candy bars instead. The daughter who started the push for candy bars looks at the small empty wrapper in her hands and back at the tub of ice cream. But this is so much smaller than that. Mom looks back at the ice cream tub and says, oh my goodness, you're right. Seems like maybe you screwed yourself out of a lot of ice cream later in exchange for a bit of chocolate now. She sighs. Isn't that a shame? Daughter tries to turn on the frown. But mom, can't you just go back and buy it? It's right there. She shakes her head. No, sweetie, I already paid for the groceries. It's the next gentleman's turn. Meaning me, the cashier had already started scanning my groceries. The daughters take one last look at the ice cream and their empty wrappers before turning and running away. Not too far, I think they just wanted to not see the ice cream anymore. As soon as they were off, I burst out laughing. Now that's a lesson. Way to go, Mom. She smiled back at me. Something tells me it's a lesson they won't soon forget. Because I'm in such a cheerful mood, I say, you want me to buy that ice cream so they can have it later? It'd be no trouble. She smiles wider and shakes her head. Nope. If I let you do that, they wouldn't learn their lesson now, would they? Moral of the story, be careful what you wish for, kids. You just might get it. Let me ask you guys, growing up, do you ever remember being taught lessons like this, or did you have a different experience? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by Pokey1984. My grandma complied with her husband's request for over 50 years, much to his chagrin. So this is my grandmother's story. My family's been telling the tale for decades. Grandpa himself told it to his daughter's fiancé as a lesson in not underestimating his new bride. Grandma told it slightly differently to my mom when she and my father were engaged. This is somewhere between the two versions. It's a lesson in be careful what you wish for, as you just might get it. Personally, I've always thought it was hilarious. My grandparents were very old school. Grandpa got a job working for John Deere as a teen and worked his way up the ladder to foreman, then manager. Grandma was a typical housewife in the 1950s and was held to typical housewife standards. She was to cook and clean and be prepared to entertain Grandpa's business associates at a moment's notice. It was her job to make sure the children were taken care of and never got in her husband's way. She was expected to have dinner on the table at 5:30 sharp when he got home from work. Her house and herself were to be impeccably kept at all times, etc. They were progressive and well off enough that Grandma had her own car. She was expected to use it to run the household errands and take the 4 kids to appointments and such. It was important that her husband not be bothered with such things. The household and family were her responsibility. He had a job. Well, one day, Grandpa arrived home from work, and not only was dinner not on the table, but Grandma wasn't even there. The kids, teens at the time, hadn't been fed. Their homework was still on the kitchen table. There were unwashed dishes in the sink, and a dozen other little chores hadn't been done yet. Most importantly, Grandpa had been inconvenienced. He'd been home just long enough to let his frustration stew into anger when Grandma's car pulled into the drive. He began shouting at her before she even had a chance to set down her purse or take off her jacket. He ranted about all the things she hadn't done because she was out running around when she should have been home, taking care of the house and making his dinner. He worked very hard all day to provide for his family. Was it too much to ask for a hot dinner when he got home? She had a very good reason for not being home, but he never let her tell it, accepting no excuses. But she was a good wife, so she intended to let him vent for a while, then she would serve him supper and explain what had gone wrong. Then, Grandpa screwed up. As sometimes happens when we speak in anger, he began to blame the wrong thing for his irritation. He began to blame the car and her access to it. He said something to the effect of, "You don't have any business out driving around anyway. You should be home. I should never have let you start driving in the first place. Women shouldn't drive." "You don't want me to drive?" Grandma asked calmly, retrieving her keys from her purse. "Fine, then I won't drive ever again." And she set those car keys on the counter, put her things away, and served dinner. And bless her heart, Grandma stuck with that declaration no matter how much more difficult it made life. Grandpa had to take afternoons off in the middle of the week when a teacher scheduled a meeting. He didn't get a moment's peace on the weekends between grocery trips and taking the kids to activities, or doctor's appointments, or for haircuts or clothes. He had to drive Grandma to every Saturday salon appointment. Previously, Grandma had taken herself and the kids to church, letting him sleep. Now he had to wake up early on Sundays to take them all himself. Grandpa was nearly as stubborn as his wife. He held out, expecting her to apologize and ask for her keys back. She never did. Instead, she simply rearranged the household schedule so that he could handle all the driving. Months later, after never getting a single weekend to relax, after having dinner pushed back nearly every day because he had to drive someone someplace, he finally gave in and apologized. He tried to tell her that he was wrong and that she should start driving again. He tried to tell her that he now appreciated all she did to make his life easier. He all but begged her to take those keys. I suspect that Grandma had always disliked driving because she never did take back those keys. Nothing Grandpa said or did could convince her to get back behind the wheel. He'd said she had no business driving a car, and she was going to hold him to that declaration no matter what. For over 50 years, until the day she died, Grandma never drove a car again for any reason. Not after the kids graduated and moved out, not after Grandpa retired, even after Grandpa's death in the 80s. She still refused because, "My husband always said that women shouldn't drive." The one key thing that OP missed out on writing over the course of this entire story is the actual reason why Grandma had been late. OP later clarified that the reason was because they were making dinner and they realized that some key element was missing, so they went to drive out to get it, and then a flat tire happened. And apparently Grandpa, later on taking the car to the shop to have the tire properly repaired, grumbled again about how it was just another example of why women shouldn't be driving. So Grandma had more than one reason as to never pick up a key again. All I can say is she was impressively consistent. This next story is by Swollen Left Thumb. Is that clear? I've held multiple jobs and always made my way from a starting position, card retrieval, cashier, loader, etc., to a high-level management position, assistant manager, sales supervisor, purchasing agent, etc. That being said, I've seen and been active in a lot of these types of situations, but one of my favorite and most recent to boot occurred at my current workplace. I started my job at the lumber yard as a loader. Come in, load cars, stock lumber, go home. Not a glorious job, but I went above and beyond every time and eventually worked my way up within a short period of time to where I am now, purchasing and accounts. Having worked every position except owner within this company, I'm aware of not only the job requirements, but the difficulty of the job. Recently, one of our drivers, whose mother is a longtime friend of the owner, and his wife, decided to leverage an interview. He no-call, no-showed for 3 days, and on the 4th day he came in with an offer. He was going to take the other job unless he had an increase in pay. They terminated a fellow employee he did not like. He regularly called out the driver on his mistakes, became the yard manager, and became the dispatch manager. Now both of those were full-time jobs, but he held the belief that not only could he do both at once, but also continue driving. Management agreed to his terms. Now fast forward a couple of months and all our new guys are slackers. Because I've done everything before, I've been asked to help out where I can. What this translates to is I have to pick up the slack for others, leaving me almost no time for my assigned job, but I make do. Recently I've been trying to lead the yard into doing better, but my plans and efforts get thwarted by a new guy with an attitude. This person always finds a way to piss everybody off, including me. With my strict work ethic and quick temper, I don't take kindly to his bull. This coworker and I regularly get into arguments. Finally, one day we get into a pretty big yelling match about how he can't tell me he's done his job if I'm in the middle of doing the things he's claimed to have done. I was stapling tarps as he was telling me he already did it. Enter double manager, who tells me that if I'm ever to need anything from the yard again, I need to go directly to him every single time. Is that clear? He adds. Crystal. With my position, I'm regularly on and off the walkie with yard guys and salesmen. At no point am I not interacting with either a salesman, driver, or loader. I tried explaining this to him and management was involved. They backed him up. I'm only to speak to him ever for any reason. So, for the following 2 weeks, I referred to him for everything. I was on the walkie roughly every 30 seconds. When he wasn't in the yard because of deliveries, I called his cell, even on his days off. After 2 weeks, I get pulled into a meeting. I'm told my attitude needed to change, at which I reminded them that I was told to turn to him for everything. A heated discussion later, and he's left his management positions. I mean, I feel like the only thing you can say about this company is that it's clearly mismanaged. Seems like they don't know what they want or nepotism runs strong. It would probably be best to look for a job to make sure your butt's covered, because I just would not be expecting stability from a job like that. And our final story of the day is by Daydreamer0181. Be careful what you wish for. I just stopped by Cassie's to get some food after babysitting the daughters of a longtime friend. They're hooked on the classic Muppet Show, which someone gave them a box set of for Christmas. Little did I know that their favorite thing on the show was the song Phenomena. Unsurprisingly, after watching that episode 4 times in a row, the song was firmly stuck in my head. I hadn't even realized I was humming it while waiting on my pizza until a little boy came up to me asking what song it was. I turned to him to see his mother standing right behind him with an expectant look on her face. I don't know if I would call her a Karen, but she definitely had the trophy wife look to her. Her clothing was expensive looking, her makeup perfect, with an attitude that screamed she was better than anyone in the place. Still, I didn't see this as a reason to be a jerk to the kids, so I said it was a song from an old kids show called The Muppet Show. The mom quickly snapped, "Why were you watching that?" Irritated but trying to be civil, I told them I'd just come from watching some friends' kids while they went out, and that was their choice. It's at this point I'm torn between giving this kid what he's asking for, or being a nice guy and not leaving this woman with the song stuck in her head for days. She decided it for me by saying, "Well, go on and tell him what it is." I just smiled, deciding of some malicious compliance, and asked the kid, I'm guessing around 9 or 10, if he has a smartphone. He says yes, and both of them are looking at me almost worried, but they relax when I tell him if he pulls up YouTube, I'll help him find the clip so he can watch it whenever he wants. Now the son's smiling as he pulls out his brand new looking iPhone. In seconds, he has YouTube up and goes to hand me the phone. I tell him no need and get him to turn on the search function's mic. He held it out to me and I said, "Phenomena." The clip popped right up and I pointed it out to the boy before looking up with a smile on my face to the mother with a "Oh God, what have I done?" look in her eyes and her smile frozen in place. Just after this happened, my pizza was ready, so I left with my food laughing and wondering about what happened next. It was a small thing really, but sometimes those are the best. Phenomena, do 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 do, phenomena, do 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 do. Not gonna lie, it is a pretty catchy song. You just might have gone on to absolutely annoy that mother, but hey, you're gonna make that kid a little bit more cultured. I think it's awesome that kids these days will hear about Phenomena and the Muppets in general. Do 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 do. But with that being said, that's a wrap on another bunch of stories here today. As always, if you guys have any favorite videos of this bunch, let me know which one in the comments down below and why. And if you enjoyed the stories in general, if you could subscribe to this channel, it'd mean a lot to me. I make these videos daily, and it's by far and away the best way to support my channel. So no matter what you did, whether it was subscribing or liking, leaving a comment, I just appreciate the heck out of you guys. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow with even more stories right here on the Storytime channel.